Welcome, traveler, to my realm of nightmares. Allow me to be your personal assistant in my realm. Come in, take a seat, get comfortable, for when you step into my realm, there's no stepping out.
So, I was a freshman in high school, and I didn't have many friends there. One of my only friends was Vanessa. Me and her were the nerdy kids in school. We had a very high GPA average, and we were the top 2 in our class. I didn't mind that I wasn't one of the cool kids. No, who am I kidding? I did. But then I realized that I've got to be myself, and pursue what I thought was cool. If that didn't make me cool, then so what? I would just have to deal with that and still live my life. I liked hanging around Vanessa because she was someone who also liked to excel in school, think about the future, and most of all, because she could also talk circles around most people when it came to the outer space matters. Yep, we both love space and all things about it. Me and her would often go to the local library in our simple town in West Virginia and get just about every book we could on the subject. Then we would also go out into nature and look at the stars as much as we could. I, Jason, had a little telescope that I'd gotten from my grandfather. We were not really able to use it here in town because of all the light pollution. We were in a rather large city in West Virginia and had to go into the natural space to genuinely immerse ourselves in the expansive world of outer space. You wouldn't believe it, but we would drive out a little ways, about 30 minutes or so, just to get out of the lights of the big town. That is why we went to a nature preserve known as the Bloody Moon Forest in the evening when it was mostly dark out. It was fun because we would set up the telescope and also have our favorite podcast, Beyond the Stars with Bill Bilson. I'd bring along my Bluetooth speaker to amplify the volume from my phone so that we could hear Bill Bilson loud and clear. Vanessa started to call him BB for short, and I thought that was cool. So I started saying the same thing too. BB was great. He was one of the only people that would actually spend quite a bit of time doing research on all things space and present that to the space-loving community. He was always interesting because he would bring on different guests that did cool things like building reusable rocket companies or spent time on the International Space Station. BB also had a call-in line where people called in and asked a few questions. He did the podcast live and gave out the number to call and ask these questions. It was funny because a few of these questions would irritate Bill Bilson, and he would go on these rants about how he was doing the podcast to ensure that everyone is on the same page when it comes to space. So, if someone asked a question he answered in the past, he would say something like, "You can find that answer in another one of my podcasts. Thank you." At times, he wasn't as polite, but he could do whatever he wanted. That was his show. I always wanted to ask a question on the show, but did not know what to ask. This time, I was like, why am I waiting so long? I should ask him something today. I thought about it for a minute, and then it came to me. I would ask him about some of the tests that had been done to go to Mars, and another question about the moon. It rings, and rings, and rings, and then I hear, "Hello, this is Bill Bilson. You're on the air. What's your name there, caller? And where are you calling from?" I said, "Why, this is Jason, and I'm calling from West Virginia." "Well, what is your question there?" Bill Bilson says. I said, "Well, how come we have never gone back to the moon?" Bill Bilson says, "Great question, Jason. The last time we went to the moon was in December 1972 as a part of the Apollo 17 program. That is where US astronauts were able to collect moon rocks, capture photos, and conduct a few experiments on the moon. Of course, our US astronauts also planted flags before coming back home to this beautiful planet. Unfortunately, we didn't leave a station with people on the moon. Instead, more than 35 years after the moon landing, we are yet to go back. Now, the recent Vice President Mike P. did go ahead and announce that we would have US astronauts on the moon by 2024. That is supposed to be exciting, because women will finally lay their feet on the lunar surface too. It is supposed to take place as part of the Artemis program. But I don't think the moon landing is going to happen by 2024. Why? It takes tons and tons of federal money. But, as you can see, that's not going to be possible because the government has been busy spending the money elsewhere, from stimulus payments to food stamps and other programs. Where are they going to get the money from investing in the space program? Then there is another issue. There could be quite a bit of political risk that's attached to the space program, but NASA has large ambitions to make the moon as another station within the next decade. We need more commitment and pressure on the slow-moving, unimaginative government to invest in scientific programs, innovation, and overall coolness. You know how cool a base on the moon would be? A lunar space station? Well, we could have had it quite a bit a while ago, but those bastards in DC are twiddling their thumbs, just waiting for another excuse to spend money on something stupid. I mean, for Christ's sake, it only takes 3 days to get to the moon. It would be the best idea and most logical to establish a permanent human resource station there. Then, that allows us to create more, learn more, and add to human knowledge, and test to venture even more into space. A fucking lunar base could help in so many different ways, but those bigwigs in DC don't understand the value of fuel deposits for deep space missions, or the need to discover more about Mars. Did you know that investing in equipment and programs for a permanent moon station would allow us to solve more problems surrounding our origins and the mysteries that we have yet to solve? Not to mention the fact that it could generate an off-world economy. But what is stopping us from doing all this? The fact that these nincompoops in Washington can't get their act together to do something genuinely interesting and helpful. The military gets about $680 billion per year, while NASA's budget in the past years was $21.5 billion. I mean, come on! Ever since 1965, NASA's piece of that sweet federal funding has gone down from 4% of the federal budget to only 0.4% of that federal budget. Yes, going to the moon would cost around $104 billion if we want to have a manned exploration venture. So, unless these people want to actually invest and commit the federal funding, then we're just whistling Dixie here. Finally, yes, I concede that the lunar surface does come with a harsh environment, and it may not be the best place for humans to thrive and succeed. From its many craters and boulders that cause issues for safe landings, then another issue is that Rygoff, or moon dust. This moon dust is all over the moon, duh, and can vary in its layers in different parts of the moon. The issue is that it is electrostatically charged due to its interactions with solar winds, and it can be quite harmful to suits, ships, and systems. But handling problems in space takes place when we have the funding, the brains, and the resources to tackle these problems. We can spend long durations and create long-term habitats, but We must solve these minor problems with the dust and other matters. Oh, one more thing. We have to deal with issues like sunlight. The lunar surface can become what people call a boiling hellscape for around 14-day sessions. Why is this? There's no protective atmosphere like we have on Earth. Then, the next 14-day session can be total darkness. But that is what makes the moon so fantastic. It serves as one of the best grounds to learn how to live on another planetary body that is not our own. The knowledge we gain from living on the moon can help us live on other hellish landscapes like Mars. Then Bill Bilson says, "Well, does that answer your questions there, Jason?" "I say you've more than answered my question there, Mr. Bilson." He says, "Great. Well, that's all the time we have for tonight, folks. Go ahead and be sure to keep watching the skies with your host, Bill Bilson, BB, signing off." "Well," Jason says, "Vanessa, that host sure does seem to know a lot, don't you think?" I ignore her and say, "I wonder if it's possible to get a private meeting with this Mr. Bill Bilson." "How are you going to do that when we have school during the day? And plus, he works in the big Texas," says Vanessa. "Don't worry about that, Vanessa. I'll figure it out, and we'll make it happen. Are you down or not?" "You betcha I'm down," Vanessa says. I say we should tell them about the strange stuff we have been seeing around this forest here in town. Vanessa says, "Oh, come on, Jason. Like, he will know anything about our forest we have here. I mean, not too many people have heard of the Bloody Moon Forest. What would he know about our nature preserve here?" Jason says, "I think that they might have. Have you forgotten about the spacecraft that landed there in 1962? How about how some of the trees over there only grow red leaves and the bark was also red? Like, when you would cut into it, it would start to bleed, and the other plants around were mostly withering away. Anyway, let's head back to town. What do you say there, Vanessa?" "Sure, let's head back. It's getting kind of dark." The crazy part was there was not many creatures around in the area, mostly deer and wild hogs. But there were also a lot of little bugs crawling around on the forest floor. You really could not take a step without hearing a crunch or a squish. We always had a fun time cleaning it off the bottom of our shoes. I loved using sticks that we found nearby to get them off. There are also quite a bit of bats that were present in the area as well. They would mostly swoop down and try to bite your ears. Not many people would come to this forest because it was kind of hard to get to it. You have to hike about 4 miles to get to this forest after parking your car. After you walk for a bit, you will notice that the forest becomes dead all of a sudden. It then gives a certain type of energy that makes you feel like the hairs on the back of your neck are standing up. You know, like when there's a cold chill that runs down your spine. I swore I could hear whispers in the wind. It sounded like a woman crying for help. I turned around and looked back. It was just Vanessa with her blonde hair waving in the wind. I asked her if she heard that weird noise. Like, it was a cry for help. She nodded and we both ran back to the car as quick as we could. It took us around 30 minutes, but we did get back to the car. We're both a little sweaty and hungry now. We start to pack up our telescope to put in the car. Then, when we're about to put it in our trunk, we see a bright light shoot across the sky. I think it's a shooting star, but it's not. It just goes straight up into the sky. How strange. So, we get in the car and we try to start it, but it does not turn on. Well, that's not good. I give the gas a little push while starting it, and then it fires up. Then we head back in town and stop at Lucy's 24-hour diner to talk about what we had just seen. As we are pulling in, we see a couple cops zoom past with the sirens blaring. We both say, "What's that all about?" We shrug and are about to walk in when a SWAT team rolls on right behind us. We're startled, but we are still hungry, so we get to the counter and order a black coffee with 2 eggs, toast, hash browns, and a triple stack of pancakes. Vanessa says, "I will have the same." Well, looks like you two got quite the appetite there. Maybe a little puff puff pass, eh? The waitress, Paris, a pretty young buxom brunette, says, No, we don't smoke. We're straight edge, okay?" Jason says. Jason turns to Vanessa and gives her a wary smile. That's when we hear a few of the conversations in the diner. A scruffy-looking man talks to his friends and says, "What's with all those SWAT teams and police officers there? Is there a bomb situation out there somewhere?" Others also look up from their meals for a bit and then go back to their respective conversations. Vanessa turns to Jason and says, "So Jason, that was pretty strange what happened tonight in the forest, eh?" "I know, Vanessa. Keep it down. I don't want people to hear us." As she keeps talking, I see out of the corner of my eye 2 men walk in wearing black suits, and they sit at the opposite side of us. They have a clear view of me and Vanessa, and we see them requesting something from Paris, the buxom brunette waitress. She brings over a bag of salt, and then both of the men get big handfuls and start licking their hands. Now, here's the strange part. I see their tongues, and they are both split, and they have like a snake-like formation. Split and forked. Then I heard them ask for more salt, and when the waitress said that's all the salt we have, they got very angry and grabbed the waitress by her brunette hair. And we don't know what they said to her, but when she went back to a standing position, she was all in a catatonic state and walked over to us and refilled my cup of coffee. But this time, she overfilled it and it spilled all over the table. The coffee spills on the floor, and the waitress went head over feet and spills the coffee everywhere. And then she walks back to the men in black and asks if they are going to order anything else. They responded with, "Yes, we will now take an order of 50 pancakes." Paris, the waitress, says, "All right, would you like coffee?" The men in black respond, "Yes, we would, and more salt." Paris, the waitress, responds, "I'm sorry, but we don't have any more." The men in black respond and say, "Fine, hurry, fetch the pancakes on the double." I look at Vanessa and say, "Whoa, that's rude." Then I'm like, "Whoa, 50 pancakes? What's the deal over there? I wonder what these guys are smoking. I would definitely want some of that." Vanessa gets up and goes to the bathroom, and I'm just sitting there alone, watching these 2 strange men just straight inhale these pancakes without chewing at all. They open up their mouth just as wide as the pancake. Indeed, it was quite a sight to see. I was intrigued and frightened all at the same time. Then Vanessa walks past them as they are eating their pancakes with their wide mouths. She looks into their glasses and sees strange eyes, not of mankind. But Vanessa did not have the strength to tell Jason about this new insight. She decided to keep it to herself before joining him back at the table. I'm watching Vanessa, and she looks a little startled, but I'm like, maybe something is not sitting right with her stomach. I look at the clock, and it's about 3 a.m. How time flies when you're at a 24-hour diner restaurant. Whoa, it's pretty late. Don't you think it's time we start heading back? Eh, Jason? I say, "No, I don't want to head out just yet. Let's go ahead and see what these 2 guys are going to do in their suits." She looks kind of intrigued and says, "Alright, Jason. I guess we can wait it out for a little bit longer. Something is up with these two." Vanessa looks like she wants to say more, but holds back. So we wait at the diner till the sun almost starts to come up over the horizon. That's when we see the two men ask the waitress for their checks. As she heads over to get their check, I say, "Hey, let's give those guys in the suits a tail and see where they might be heading off to. I want to see if there's anything more I can find out about them." So Vanessa says, "Well, let's at least get a coffee to go. I don't want to be out there without any energy. I barely got any sleep." I say, "Alright, we can do that." We order the coffee to go and get in our car. Then, we see that they are driving a blacked out SUV with no plates on there at all. They head out in their SUV and I get behind them, but not too close, to where they notice us. So, we were driving along for about an hour or so when we come across a strange road that I nor her had ever seen before. It was strange because we had both lived in this town for our whole lives and we both knew it like the back of our hand. We had thought that we knew everything about this town, but I guess there are some roads that have been unexplored. Then we go across an old dirt road with a river running over it, but there was no bridge at all. We have never seen or heard about these dirt roads or rivers in our town, and we swear we have been in all the nature areas. We've been everywhere. I looked at both sides and see it goes like 50 feet down. It does not make any sense. What is happening here? Where did all these natural surroundings and new buildings come from? It was quite a sight to see. I did not think we had anything like this around here. I was like, what in the heck? Are we going over a darn volcano or something like that? I was not sure, but it was creepy. Sure enough, we could smell sulfur coming through the car air vent. So, I tell her to turn it off, and we start to hear loud pops. And then, all of a sudden, both tires pop in the front, and then the back ones go. So now, we got to get out and walk towards the buildings that they had parked their car at. Well, it looks like we're walking from here, I say. Good thing we're wearing our hiking boots. Well, I guess we got one good thing going. Got the right boots on for the job, but still got to cover your mouth with a cloth because that smell was so bad. Now, as we're walking towards the building, we both begin to lose our sight, and then we both pass out. Hours later, we wake up in a room. We both start to pull the straps off our bodies and take a look. We both see a door with a strange handle that we have not seen before. It's like you have to stick your whole hand into it. So I stick my whole hand into the door. At first, there's a little pressure, and then a poke and a sting. The door opens, and we are left with a window. The window is overlooking out somewhere in the vastness of outer space. But where are we? Vanessa says, I have no idea, but it looks like we are in some kind of simulation of some sort. Then, Vanessa starts to glitch. Tonight's story was written by Darkhorse Tales. He is a good friend and a talented author. If you have not checked him out, please do so. His links will be in the description below. Also, I now have merch. If you would like to walk around representing my realm and gather and meet new travelers, the links will be in the description below. I also want to say thank you to my lovely Patreons. 242 Reads, Rando Calrissian, Pam, Silver Threads, Seraphine the Midnight Bard, and Hair-Raising Narratives. If you want to join these lovely travelers by the light of my fire, you can do so by becoming a Patreon as well. Remember, the support is always appreciated, but never expected. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and ding that bell for all future content.
But as always, travelers, once you step into my realm, there's no stepping out.